What's up, everybody? This is the gathering moment to episode 5. 5 episodes so far of our WaterEdge live reaction. Tonight's host is me, and we'll be interviewing one of my old friends from my youth ministry days, Mike Collins. And he's a youth pastor, well, actually he's associate pastor, I believe is still youth ministry. He's been in youth ministry a long time. So he'll be on in like a minute. I'm going to add him on to the video. And I made this for you, Mike. Since you're not on to comment right now, you can just observe and read this. I'm just going to leave it right here. Yeah, this is just for you to gather and to read. And tonight we're going to talk about the parable of the talents. That's what we did every other week at WaterEdge. We're in a season of recalibration. So every other week we have a service, and then we have a training for the launch team that's going to be launching the church on September the 10th. And last Sunday, which was a day yesterday, we talked about the parables of the talents and using your gifts. And so tonight I'm going to ask Mike if he uses his gifts, or not. Hi, Mike's mom. Look at that. Man, it's good to hear from you. I'm glad you're here. So your mom's on, and my mom will be on, and my wife. So I'll make 3 people. That'll be great. Actually, there's more than that already. So it's pretty cool. Hope you're doing good. My goodness, that's awesome. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to bring Mike on. We're going to talk. And at the very end, I'll let him tell some embarrassing stories if he has any of me. But you got to stick around to the end to hear those. The whole thing will be done by 7:30. I promise it'll be painless. It's gonna be a good night. Let me bring Mike on, and here we go. Hi, Jamie. How's it going? All right. Mike is like the little brother I never had that I never talked to. What's up, Mike?
What's going on, everybody? Hi, Pastor Jason.
Oh, hi, Pastor Mike. How are you?
Yes. Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
That's good. We'll see how many accents you can do during the time of the broadcast.
Ooh, that's fun.
Keep changing your voice. People won't have no idea where you're from, what you're doing, unless you tell them.
I can't wait. Let's do it.
We could have a challenge to see how many we could do back and forth. That'd be good. Mike hails from Scotland, and he's actually 84 years old. And so you're looking good for 84. I was just telling everybody that you're like the little brother I had growing up that I never talked to anymore. So even though nothing happened that we would not talk to each other, but we just don't. Let's be honest.
Life happens, but you're one of those rare friends that it doesn't matter when we're together, it just picks right back up like no time has passed. But I've enjoyed following the top slice of your life here on Facebook. I'm very I haven't really spoken to you in person in a while, but congratulations on your wedding and your baby.
Thanks, man. That was and
those Star Wars pictures are amazing.
And then the baby came.
Yes. Very carefully chosen words.
Yeah. There was, it was, we made it. It was a year, but it was tight window.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm 40, man, so I can't be wasting time. 40 years old.
I'm right behind you. I've got more gray in my beard than you, but I would like to point out you are older than me.
Yeah, I have less hair, but that's not new for us. You've had more hair since I've known you. Mike had a full beard like in 8th grade.
I did. But I lost man points because it wouldn't connect right here, so I would get the little eyebrow pencil from my mom's makeup and just fill it in. So I'm not embarrassed about it anymore.
Not at all. Yeah, you're a man now. No big deal. That's awesome. Yeah, we have youth group in the morning. We set up, and by night, Mike have a full Teen Wolf going on, and I'm like, I could grow this. This is all I could do. And I still can't do about that. So
I should have laid off. They started putting all those hormones in milk in the 1980s, and then this is what you get. Unfortunately, it didn't stop with my face. It kept going backwards. So.
That's awesome.
It was great when you're a teenager, but now that you're getting close to 40, it's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's gross, man. That's good. Hey, so tell everybody that's watching, like, where are you serving? Where have you been serving? What's going on? Are you still in youth ministry? Did you abandon it and do something else? What's going on?
Sure. My wife and I moved back to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, about 5 years ago from Austin, Texas. We have the privilege of being at New Heart Church, where we do a lot of different things. We just finished youth camp, I get to work with the youth ministry still and the kids ministry. I still have a bunch of food stuck in my ear from, even though camp was over last Thursday, I'm still
Hmm.
pulling stuff out of my ear. Lives were changed. We've got a great team. We've got great youth pastors that I'm transitioning into more of a coaching role over the past few years.
Cool.
I love youth ministry with people over 25 and under 25, so there's still people to get messy, and I'm there to make sure no one gets sued, and uh, and help. We have got a great youth team. So oversee we call it the generational ministries, kids all the way up through youth, and our I don't know what you would call it. We don't call our church members, we call them owners,
Nice.
because owners have responsibility and members have privileges. So I oversee our ownership class
Ooh,
that
I
we've
like
had
that.
100 people go through in our first year. I'm really excited about that, and that's our baby step towards our articulated discipleship strategy. And then our church mission is we're on mission to make every story matter. So I get to
Well, that's
work
good.
with an amazing team of people capturing our stories and telling our stories, and that's one of the favorite things I get to do. Just
Yeah.
getting to hear on a weekly basis someone whose life has changed. That's why we signed up for this, and it shouldn't be a
Yeah.
surprise. But every week I'm like, oh wow, God's real, and your life was changed. That's amazing. So it keeps my why really strong to
That's
be able
cool.
to hear all those stories. So yeah,
How do you help communicate the stories? Are you oversee a team that does that, or is that, tell
yeah,
me about that.
we've been we capture interviews, kind of documentary style. We do one every week, and we got, I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Hyatt, but he talks about launching a website, or he's a virtual mentor. He used to be the CEO of Thomas Nelson, and he did a podcast a while ago that don't wait till it's perfect, just start creating something. So we started creating these stories and capturing them, and already it's only been 6 months, but you can look back at what we did in January and you're like, oh man, we didn't know how to work the lights, or how to focus the camera. But so now there's a few people that help, 2 or 3 people as they can, and we capture stories every week at our church staff meeting. That's one of the things, like, we report and gather every week. It's not like punching a time clock, but what stories did you hear? What stories have you captured this week? And then we go and see if we can line up a time to go and interview our folks. And so right now it's a tight production schedule. Usually film on Wednesday and edit and do all that stuff
Yeah.
and show it Sunday.
Night
But
on
oh,
Saturday.
I love it. I love doing that.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to talk about using your gifts. So that's part of why
Cool.
I'm having you on, because you're so talented. Since I've known you anyway, you've been very, very, very talented. Mike, of all of our friends, Jimmy, did you watch the video with Jimmy? Jimmy was
I
on.
did.
Sorry, Reverend James Nichols.
Reverend. Yes, that's
Reverend,
right.
yeah, Reverend
So
Jim.
fancy.
Yeah, very fancy. He was the robe and the whole deal. Very, very
Oh,
fancy. I like
wow.
all very different in our ministry settings. But our group of
Yeah.
friends and our group that even around our friends are in ministry, and it's pretty cool to see
Yeah.
that. Pretty
Our
neat.
youth ministry size, I think one night we had 200 people there, and we were all celebrating. But so many of us are actually love God, and so
Yeah,
many of us are in either full-time ministry or serving at a church. I ran into Penny a couple years ago up here at a church conference, and she's going strong. And I love
awesome.
watching and being a part of that legacy. I don't know exactly what our church did, but it's
Yeah.
great. It's really cool to see a senior pastor trust a youth pastor, because we definitely tried to do everything short of sin to share God's love with teenagers. But
Yeah.
that whole experience was transformative in my life, of being a part of not only receiving. So we'd do the youth camp things, and we'd throw the stick in the fire at the end and recommit our lives to Jesus, but it was very practical too. Like, we owned
Yeah.
Wednesday nights. I remember setting up at the city hall with you, and we were trying to black out the windows and set up lights. And there's not a week that goes by that I don't use something that I learned as a teenager from that youth group. And I'm so grateful for it now.
Yeah, oh, me too. We Jimmy and I talked about how we had the website for a while, what we learned not to do as well. Like
You
the
did?
mistakes of what, yeah, yeah. I don't know if you were on that, but we had a website for a long time. It was like a MySpace page, I think. That's how old it is. But it was like things we
Oh, that's
learned, what
beautiful.
not to be in ministry because of it. And then we always echoed it with what we did learn, but we also learned, like, we don't, and I can't go on. We get a whole podcast on what we learned, what we shouldn't do, but by
There's a
experience. My
bunch of
youth
stuff I
guys,
can't even say online.
oh man. And my youth group guys and girls didn't get away with anything because I'm like, I know what that's like. Tell me, I
Yep.
was there. So it was
Yep.
good. But yeah, so I've transitioned. I'm doing the lead pastor spot. We relaunched our church. We kind of shut down. We shut down. Now we're relaunching in September. So we're relaunching and doing preview services and things like that. So yesterday we talked about the parable of the talents. So we're talking about Jesus giving the story of the parable of talents. Now he gave somebody 5 and 2 and 1. I believe that was what it was. And what did you do with your gifts and what did you do with your talents? So the first question that I want to ask you is, okay, if God's given us gifts to use, and the week before that with my, as you noticed, my PhD buddy was here. We talked
He's
about
brilliant.
how,
Thanks for
yeah,
bringing me on after him, by the way. Thank you.
yeah, I should have let you follow Jimmy. That would have probably been nicer.
Yeah,
But
that's what
now,
I was hoping for.
Craig and I talked about how your spiritual life is messy, and that whole
Yeah.
thing was about how spiritual growth is messy, but it's still growth, even though it's messy. Even reluctant growth is still growth. So
Yeah.
I want to tie the knot there, bridge the gap between a messy spiritual growth life and using your gifts from God. Have you seen that happen in your life, and have you come up short on that in any way? And feel free to be as personal or less personal, whatever you want to share. And yeah, how have you used your gifts for God, or how have you not used your gifts? Maybe you've used them for Satan.
I love that question. I used to view personal growth as linear, and like once you step forward, you would never step back. And even into my 30s, would get so frustrated that I'm still dealing with this insecurity, or I'm still dealing with this habit, I'm still dealing with whatever it is. Like, I'm past this already. And coming from my background, which is more of like a charismatic kind of thing, there was long periods in my Christianity where I thought if I could just hear the right sermon or have the right person pray for me, I would get bit by some spiritually radioactive spider and leap sin in a single bound. Like I'm just like looking for that one thing, and it may be some of my personality too, but also just getting very very down on myself, a very negative self-talk, and not realizing the whole time God was at work and God's still doing things. So like it's not linear in my experience at all, and you could see growth in one area, and also at the same time taking massive step backwards in other areas. And just the other day I was talking, my wife and I meet and kind of have the state of the family kind of stuff, or how you doing, little check-ins, take your spiritual temperature. And I was telling her all the things I was trying to work on professionally, personally, as a dad. And when I make those lists, I get ambitious. She had to pull me back, like, hey, why don't you just focus on your time with God? Like, let's just take the next week, let's put all the
Yeah.
stuff to the side and make sure, what are you doing? YouVersion? Are you reading your Bible? You're going through a reading plan? Are you doing Pray As You Go, that app, or what? Just focus on that. And it took so much weight off me. Like, I have this, and this is from my experience, like I just have this view of what like super pastor and super Christian is, and with zero weaknesses. And that's just exhausting to try to be perfect in every area. And I had a counselor tell me once, like, that, this thing that you're dealing with, obviously the enemy is trying to take you out with this, but this is actually a yellow light or a flag that every time this issue comes up, this is a chance for God's presence to come in your life. It's a warning sign to redirect your heart to God. And that reframed everything. instead of focusing on brokenness, instead of focusing on how far I have to go, learning, oh, Jesus is right here with me. And yeah, I've got a long way to go, but Jesus is here with me, working on me. If Jesus came into my house, I wouldn't try to rush him out. If he was trying to fix my sink, I'd be like,
Right.
let's grab some lemonade. Let's chill out. Don't fix this sooner. Um, so I don't know if I answered your question. Sometimes if you ask me like what time it is, I'll tell you how a clock is made. So if you
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
redirect me, go for it.
Yeah, I definitely think I have adult ADD, but no, that was good because we were talking about being spiritually messy,
Yeah.
and transition that into using your whatever gifts you want to use. Like, have you tried to in your messiness and you're trying to grow? Have you found an outlet where you can use your gifts, or have you just like I haven't done it yet, can't do it?
Yeah, and there's different seasons. Like from our background, we loved theater before we were in on a ministry track at all. I was a film and theater major, and there were seasons where I just felt like I'm not using my gifts at all. I'm not teaching, and I'm in a season like that a little bit now. I would say that's one of my first gifts, but I don't do that, and it's a beautiful opportunity to work on character. Like this may be a little bit off topic, but there was a time in my life where we first moved to Austin, Texas, where I got myself into a situation where my gifts took me a little bit further than my character could sustain me. So I could, it was I went from a medium-sized church to a mega church, and I had the ability from my training and experience I was a middle school pastor. I could keep their attention and communicate biblical truth for young teenagers, but inside I was toast. I would I would finish preaching and just be like nothing left. And there was a time where I kind of had to pull back and focus on my relationship with God, focus on my character. Yes, I could do what I thought was the job, was preaching. I thought that's all people did at a church, that you preach, but there were like families to take care of. There were leaders to train and leaders to build up, and I wish I had known that. I didn't really get that in my formal training in college. They focused on the academics, but I somehow I graduated and got a real grown-up ministry job without having any conflict resolution skills. Coming, I didn't know when people didn't get along or didn't do their job or didn't show up, or I was like, I don't know what to do about this. Maybe I'll just ignore it for a couple months and the problem will go away.
Oh yeah.
And everyone will just magically behave. But that personal growth part, I wasn't prepared. I didn't know how interconnected being a minister was, or pastor on staff or on team. Yeah, you can have the gifts to do something, but without the character or willingness to confront, like my own personal demons were having interpersonal conflict. That just freaked me out.
Right.
And, like buffalo, they go towards the storm because that they intrinsically know that'll get them through the storm faster. They head towards storm clouds. I would just run away from them, and then the storm would last twice as long. But my gifts were still growing that whole time,
Right.
in situations, and God's not limited to that linear thing. Like there's every different area He's working on.
Yeah, Jimmy and I, and someone else I was talking, Jennifer and I were talking about just the education that you get, which is great. I mean, I went to Asbury, so did Jimmy, but we went to two different
School. Yeah.
branches. Yeah, we learn, but man, there's just so much you just can't learn, or they're not prepared to learn.
Yeah.
Maybe as well. Like I didn't want to learn.
And I'll own that. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I'll own that too. Yeah.
Every position I've been in, it is always a new circle of skills, a new circle of things that I wish I had, just spent a little more time learning this, or someone could have, poured in. There was some leadership stuff we kind of got into at the end. But man, there's just no like how to make a budget and how to lead this board meeting and conflict resolution. Yeah, I mean, that made me like just oh my goodness, I feel like I'd be so much further along had someone told me that that's something I had to do, or it was, or you to expect it anyways. But it was mostly based on preaching, church history,
Yeah.
some discipleship training. But yeah, I mean, I went, I mean, great school, had a great time, some great professors. Some of them really got it, and some of them didn't. And yeah, so yeah, I hear that, and you're not alone. I mean, every minister I've talked to that's still in ministry, sadly, that's not, you know, so there's a huge rate of people dropping out because they had the gifts and they want to use their gifts. Their spiritual life is a mess like everyone else's, and they haven't reconciled that. And I think it was a good point that you made about you're vulnerable enough to say that you went to counseling, and that's huge. I mean, I think if
I'm a huge fan
pastors
of counseling. I'll
need to
go
go.
anytime.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please, yeah, pay my way. I'll go, you know, every day.
Whether you think you need it or not, it's so good.
Yeah, I think there's a stigma. You mentioned this too about ministers kind of having it all together and pretending. Earlier on, like in your setting, you were just kind of preaching and you were toast. But like, yeah, we have to. I think that's a huge tool of the enemy that says that we have to have it all together, and you know, counseling would show that you're weak. Or, man, yeah, that's absolutely.
And I found vulnerability is so good, especially for anybody. We have this thing I love Brené Brown. I don't know if you've ever read any of her books, but I've never had an experience of sharing a weakness with somebody, no matter my position or title, where it didn't turn out positive. Like there's this thing where we think, oh, if we share that we're not perfect, we're going to lose face, we're going to get made fun of. But 9 times out of 10, someone's going through something very similar,
Mm-hmm.
or your vulnerability breaks the ice and someone else shares something that they're going through. I've never seen it backfire. Now you use wisdom and you don't just tell everybody walking down the
Right.
street what's going on, but
Yeah.
I don't see any other way to go. Trying to do things on your own and keeping everything stuffed in and figuring it
Yeah.
out on your own doesn't
My
work.
mentor Blake always used the example of know where you're at. Like if you're on the basketball court, you know, you wear a uniform clothes when you're in the locker room. So basically know when to be naked, know when to be vulnerable. But
Yeah,
I've always found that the more vulnerable I am, the more likely it's easier to lead. If I'm vulnerable,
yeah,
and the people that do have a problem with me being perfect, they need to leave anyways. If we're honest, like because they have so much stuff, they need to go and move on.
yeah,
And if they don't like who I am, then they're not going to be happy no matter what happens. And I'm just, you know,
yeah,
go to a church where you can support the leadership. Then if it's not me,
yeah,
this is going to be me. And my problem is that I overshare.
yeah.
That's why he told me to pull back. I share too much. I talk too
Been
much.
there.
I share too much. So there's a balance. Absolutely, there's a balance because there's people want to, you know, have spiritual authority in their life. They want someone they can come to and think, man, that guy's so messed up. I can't even
Yeah,
put it. So yeah, there's a line. I think there's a line in the
yeah.
balance, but a healthy vulnerability is good.
And
So
I love the thought of sharing from a scar and not an open wound.
yeah,
Sometimes you're not ready to share your story, and other people aren't ready to be trusted. A story is a sacred thing, and that's one litmus test I use. Like, is this a scar, or is this going to open up a wound for someone else?
good. All right, so I'll rein us back in. Because I'm you know as you are, like we can get off topic easy, but so we're using talking about using your gifts now,
Yeah.
bring it home to your ministry setting. Like, so have you seen your students' lives, or maybe now even your team, your people you're coaching, youth workers? Do you see them struggling with this messy spiritualness and trying to live a middle school life, or are coaching middle school students, and are they using their gifts, or are they afraid, or what have you seen?
Yeah, I've seen. I remember. It reminds me of a story of a youth worker I had in Austin who was saved. His story is pretty dramatic. He woke up. He was going to a state school, living the stereotypical college life with the parties and everything, and woke up in this horrific situation that. It was almost like a Paul moment where he's like, what am I doing with my life? So the contrast of light and dark in his life produced such a hunger and a passion to grow that that's the lens he saw the world with. So after a youth camp where some teenagers gave their hearts to the Lord, turned over drugs and wanted that out of their life, it shattered his world when the guys in his small group and the seventh grade small group went back to their old life, and
Mm.
it didn't compute for him because he's like, they don't get it, but they didn't have the same experience that he had. So is even working out his own view of the process of salvation, the process of discipleship. I've seen over the years, like people not realizing they had a gift to do something that, especially especially when it comes to middle schoolers, uh, people go almost through this regression when they come in and they regress to a middle school state. Who's going to sit with me? Are they going to like me? Are they going to make fun of me? And or thinking there's nothing that I could do. I'm a computer programmer, but they realize they've got a gift for teaching, and or there's this pastoral side to them that they didn't even know when they dig in, like to what is the biblical definition of a pastor. And I love J.R. Woodward's definition of a peacemaker. That you that you come in and you bring peace into people's lives. That just happened right now in our own church. There's a guy who was 29 years old, and we were talking about spiritual gifts and Paul kind of seeing the light, and he realized, you know what, I've had this thing in my life that I've always felt like was on the back burner of that I'm supposed to be working in the kids ministry. And flash forward a year later, he's preaching at kids camp
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
telling all these kids, like, preaching about the same scriptures. Paul on the road to Damascus sees the light, and he's saying he's able to draw on his experience. And he's had ups and downs in his life, but he's like, I'm 29 years old. It took me 29 years to realize that I was called to serve in God's kingdom, and you guys, and don't wait till you're 29, and to see him lead them appropriately through that process for kids to realize that, hey, God's hand is on my life. If I'm breathing, God wants to use me. I don't have to wait until I'm an adult. That's not adult stuff. God can use me right now. So it's fun to watch him over this past year and a half go from, oh, maybe I'll serve a little, to he's running a significant wing of the kids ministry and thriving in it and still growing, but he's
Yeah,
doing awesome.
that's awesome, man. It's a good practical story too. A lot of that is just like you said, if having those conversations with people, and just digging a little bit, and caring enough to be patient enough to listen. One of my gifts, rephrase, one of my ungifts that I don't have, I'm not a great listener.
What?
I'm trying. I'm better than
Huh?
I was.
I love that joke.
That's something I work on, and the more that I'm able to do that, we shared that on Sunday. Like, just because it's not my gift, doesn't mean I don't have to do it. People use that. Oh, I'm not an evangelist. I don't like to share. You still have to go and do that. Those are areas that your growth areas that you need to work on. But I like to focus on our strengths. I tell our guys and girls, focus on your strength. That's great, but you also got to pick up the
Yeah.
slack too. Yeah. How have you done that? That's kind of the last question is, like listening, adding in skills for me. Like I'm highly creative. I could just write plays all day or whatever, write jokes or something. But
You're not an
so,
administrative guru?
yeah, no, I am not. And so the only way I figured it out is to surround myself with people that have those gifts. Have you found another
Yes,
script to do things that's gives you energy?
definitely. The also a way of looking at it. I came up looking at church almost like through an organizational lens and a ladder to climb. I remember watching our pastors growing up, and on Sunday mornings there was this like thing stage left where this hallway they would gather, and they're all wearing their suits, and they'd walk out and sing praise and worship in their big chairs, and it was awesome. So
Yep.
I viewed it very like with a hierarchy, and it's this like ladder to climb. If you're being fruitful and you're doing a good job, you'll keep climbing the ladder. But especially when it comes to these administrative tasks. For me personally, it helps to think more in terms of family. Like, there's a lot of instances where in the New Testament it's talked, the church is talked about as more of an organism and a family structure. And in my family, my daughters don't say, "Oh, that's my calling."
Right.
I'm not called to clean up. My daughters never come to me asking what their title is. You know, what's my job description? And to really take ownership of, okay, I'm I'm benefiting greatly from being a part of this church family. Yeah, there's stuff I've got to grind out. I'm not amazing at scheduling things and that sort of thing, but when I think, okay, I'm not just scheduling someone, I'm giving someone an opportunity to discover their gifts. I'm giving, and serving at our church isn't uh, just done accidentally. It's definitely, the task is almost incidental. The purpose is, hey, we're rubbing shoulders with people, we're building community, and it's not like passing a bucket, someone's going to find their life calling. But when they're meeting with their team and they're making friends, there's this communal aspect organically where discipleship is happening. And I forgot the question, but
It's awesome. No, it's good. We were talking about making, your the best thing you said
oh
right there
yeah,
was making it a family, and how
yeah,
in a family you can't say, sorry, I can't schedule this because we have family day, but Dad's not a scheduler, so sorry.
yeah, and
It's a family. You do it
that's
anyways.
almost like off limits to say in my environment, which I'm so grateful for. Is that's not my calling. Like, we're a family. It's all hands on deck, and
Right.
I've been in situations where things were very siloed, and on at a team level, we would fight for over people and resources and church announcements. Like, everything's got to be an announcement. But when you're taking ownership of it and everyone sees themselves as sons and daughters of the house, if you want to use that language, it's like, no, this is my thing. And if at my personal house, if the dishes aren't done, I don't say, well, that's not my department. No, I just do the dishes. And then seeing the people behind the task really helps when there's something I'm not good at, but
Yeah.
realizing there's a face, there's a name, there's a story behind this, and it may not be fun right now, stacking chairs or whatever it is. It provides that motivation to kind of grind through every now and then. And then now there's so many technological things out there. Like, I'm not particularly administratively gifted, but like Planning Center helps schedule. There's nothing YouTube can't show you how to do, pretty much.
Yeah.
I I'd never worked with digital lights before, and the church bought some digital lights about 4 years back. But Google showed me how to hook them up, and now there's teenagers at our church that run them, and they know how to do the software light years ahead of what I could do.
Right.
That goes back to your point of just finding people that are better at you
Yeah.
than
Yeah. I
what
think
you do.
in the mean, like a family, like you obviously, as your children grow, they're going to have specialized gifts that they're good at. They do, or maybe chores they enjoy more than other chores, and they would do, but
Yeah.
that doesn't get done in the meantime. But passing that on, that's a great image of family. All right, so we got to wrap this for us. So for embarrassing stories, you got any good Jason Mike stories, or just Jason stories you can pull up in the back of your head? You got 2 minutes though. That's all you got.
Okay, not super embarrassing, but everyone needs to know that you were a phenomenal beach volleyball player. Out of all the people that I played with, you were my favorite partner, and I believe we could take down anybody. We may not have been the tallest or the strongest,
That's
but with
right.
our combined hand-eye coordination, and when our minds got in sync, I knew where you were going to be. I don't know how cool, but you have to realize Top Gun was still a very popular movie when we were in high school, and we'd flex our muscles at everybody. And um,
Oh man,
oh,
we're losing you, Mike. This is the best part. He's getting ready to tell you how awesome a volleyball player was.
and you have the most annoying hook shot in basketball this kind of like scoop out to your right that's impossible to block. It made me so angry many, many times. I don't know if you still got it. I don't know if it still works for you, but that hook shot, oh, that was frustrating. Oh, but there was a time where we shot Santa Claus on stage too.
Man, see, Mike's bragging on me like a good little brother, and the internet is against you, Mike.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
There's a lot of bad things that we did on stage. Yeah. Mike, we're breaking up, man. We got to go. I think Facebook kind of shuts us down after like 30 minutes. They know something's going to be embarrassing, but that's a little better,
awesome.
but we better go.
All right.
You can type some comments down and tell some stories, but we did together. We did some things on stage that should not have ever been done in the sake of humor, but we try to do it for Jesus. But man, we've got some crazy stuff. But Mike, thank you so much, man, for being here. And it's ironic that we talked about volleyball because next week or in 2 weeks, I think it's going to be Brian Day. So that's going to be there.
Nice.
I'll see you, Mike. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, we have service here at 10 o'clock next Sunday. We're finishing our series called Countdown. See you guys.
See ya.
Thanks, Mike.